welcome to episode 98 of the Tea and Possibilities podcast. I'm Nikki and this is a podcast all about knitting, crochet and making all the things here in East London. And before I get any further into the episode, I will say if you can hear some weird jangling or the sound of a tiny herd of elephants running around my home, you probably missed last episode I should say, not last week because I am bi-weekly, but I do have a cat. She's a kitten, she's only about 5 months old and she does run around, play with her toys, etc. So if you hear any strange noises in the background, it's very likely to be Olive. She's just stuck her head out from under the sofa. I think she heard her name. So she stuck it out like, you talking about me? Now, as always, everything I mention will be linked just down below in the show notes, and where possible, I will find non-Ravelry links and everything will be marked Ravelry or non-Ravelry. So if you're not able to use Ravelry, you can have a look down there and hopefully find a non-Ravelry link. Also down there will be my Ko-fi account, so if you did want to buy me a cup of coffee/tea, you can do that via my Ko-fi account. To everybody who did so after the last episode, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. That was really kind of you and it does not go unnoticed or unappreciated. And while we're on the subject of gratitude, welcome to the episode. If you are a new viewer, thank you so much for giving the podcast a shot. And if you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for joining me and for taking the time out of your day to come back. I really appreciate you coming back episode after episode. Today's tea is in a mug that was a gift from a friend. Don't know if you can see what it says there. It says tired AF. She was moving and downsizing and she gave me this because she was like, you always are, so you probably need this. And it's a good black Earl Grey to keep me going. I got up, I do that thing where I just wake up early because I wake up early in the week and I just don't really sleep in past sort of 6 or 7 at the weekend. I stay in bed, I just don't really get enough sleep. So this will keep me going because after this, I have got to run to the post office to do some returns and then I'm meeting a friend to go to a ceramics market. So there you go. I've also realised I've got my camera lens cover there. So let's just move that, shall we? But that's it for the intro. So now let's move on to whip it up. I'm not going to apologise again for the lack of content here. I've talked before about the fact that this is not a productivity podcast. This is a podcast about the things that I'm making, and everything I make I do because I enjoy it, and I do not ever want to sit down and do something that I don't really want to work on just because I can then show it on the podcast. That defeats the object of both podcasting and making, in my opinion, which I feel like I say every week, but it bears repeating. So as before, there is only one whip and I make no apologies for it because I'm absolutely whizzing through this. This is the Litmus Cowl, which is by Jude of Stranded Dye Works, and it is knit out of Jude's Pride 2022 collection, and the grey is First Frost, also by Jude of Stranded. And every colour, as I've said before, in this Pride collection was dyed by a different LGBTQIA plus dyer. And last time I think I had just started the orange. Obviously I've now finished that beautiful pumpkin orange, done my grey stripe, and done this really bright, beautiful kind of neon highlighter yellow. And this, I actually got the bulk of this done during a 5-hour work meeting. I mentioned before we do these monthly kind of company-wide catch-ups, and that is where I got most of this done. And I think I actually started the grey while I was there. So before I go into detail about kind of my progress, let's talk about the colours that I have knit so far. So the orange, which as you can see is finished and very, very pumpkin spice latte. I love it very much. And the orange is by Dystopic Fibre. John is the dyer behind Dystopic Fibre. Based in Glasgow, he takes inspiration from sci-fi and fantasy. His current inspiration is Apocalypse by Mushroom, resulting in several mushroom-themed yarn collections. I mentioned before, Apocalypse by Mushroom sounds pretty incredible. The yellow is by James Makes Yarn. James runs his small batch hand-dyed yarn brand from his home in the beautiful Cotswolds. It is very beautiful there, good choice. James Makes Yarn is the welcomed evolution of his love for all things colour, coupled with his passion for knitting and crochet. So yes, that is neon. It's not really picking up, but it's a lot more kind of neon-y, paler yellow than the gold that I've done my wall. What I really think is amazing about this is how well the colours sit together when you consider the fact that they are all dyed by different people. And they just work really nicely together. And that's despite the fact that they've obviously put their own spin on the colour. And I think that's really cool and really interesting, and is why I could never be a dyer, because I just don't have that kind of colour sense at all. Now, I'm going to be honest here, because while I'm about halfway through, I think I counted there were 10 colours, and this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm about to start the second half of the colours. And while I am getting through it pretty quickly, it's not going as quickly as it normally would. If you can hear that scrabbling, I didn't throw out a box because somebody wanted to play with it. So that's her scrabbling around in her box, her little den. It's not going as fast as it would if I didn't have Olive, because Olive loves, she's literally right here. Olive loves yarn. She loves looking at the yarn, grabbing the bits that are trailing, grabbing the bits that I'm actually knitting with. So there is a lot of like, no, I'm putting it down when she gets too excited. So it doesn't have the same flow that it would have if I didn't have my tiny furry distraction. And because of that, there are a couple of pulls in it where she's got her little, she's looking at it now. Okay, she's looked away, she's found a hairband. There are a couple of little pulls in it from her little claws, which I will go in and correct eventually. So that's just an extra little step I'll have to do at the end, which is absolutely fine. The other thing to mention is that I actually did this a lot wider than Jude's recipe. Well, I suppose it is more of a recipe than a pattern. It is free, so I will say that the pattern says that it should be 100 stitches, which would have made it this wide. Hello. There's a trailing yarn. Someone's seen the trailing yarn. Would have made it about this wide, but these stripes, why couldn't I think of the word stripes? But these stripes would have been double thickness, and as I was working on it, I didn't like how thick they were coming out. This is a good amount for me. So it's going to be a lot wider than the one that Jude made. It will probably therefore be a little bit shorter, probably will only wrap around once, but it is already quite weighty because it is this double thickness, because I'll be kitchenering it together at the end to make a loop-de-loop. But it will be super, super cozy. It will be nice and long, so it will tuck down really nicely in the front of my coat. My winter coat, which I'm not gonna get out yet because it's just not cold enough, guys. But my winter coat is a navy duffel, so that will look very, very nice with my navy duffel. Now, for the rest, somebody loves the tassels on my bag. Now, for the record, I haven't forgot about my Lois scarf that I'm going to make. It just, that requires a little bit more brain power than I currently have. And I will get to it. I'm probably going to make it a Christmas knit because I've got some time off over the Christmas period. I've got kind of, I think, a couple of days before Christmas Eve up until the New Year off. So I will probably work on that then. Now, as there isn't much to talk about in Whipped Up regarding actual whips, let's talk a little bit about the Christmas box of socks. So this is something, again, I was inspired by Jude of Stranded, and it's something I've been working on for 2, maybe 3 years now. I think I'm about halfway, but I thought we'd have a look at what I've done so far and what I'm going to try and complete this year. Little furry distraction, I did warn you. So this is my Christmas box of socks, and I'm starting to think it's not going to be big enough for a completed set of 24. I got this in Paper Chase, and it must have been 2019 that I got this because it was pre-pandemic, because I went to Paper Chase and had a lovely time. So there's some yarns that I will be working on. I will have a look at those shortly. Let's just move these out of the way for the time being and have a look at what I've got. So let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, gosh, 9, 10, 11, 12. So that is my current box of socks for Christmas. Hello, little love, how are you? So this is my current box of socks, and this box is already quite full, so I might have to upgrade to another box. However, I do have a 13th pair, but if I put my hand down, I'm gonna drop everything. Okay, there we go. Oh, okay. Do you know what? We're gonna tidy that up later. That's a mess now. So I do have, hello, you love socks, don't you? Absolutely love them. Absolutely love them. This is my 13th pair of socks. Now this is from, excuse me, we don't chew on socks. We talked about this, haven't we? We don't chew on socks. Mwah. Where do you want to go? This is my 13th pair of socks, and this was sent by a lovely viewer called Anna, and she included, it's right at the bottom, this little mini skein. But as you can see, there's no heel in them. Oh, we're in the box. We're in the box. As you can see, there isn't a heel in these, so I need to do an afterthought heel, hence she sent me the little skein. And I'm just so scared. And every year I look at them and they look so squishy and delicious. And I really want to wear them, and every year I'm like, I can't do it, can't cut my knitting. Maybe this will be the year. Maybe this will be the year I'm going to try. So technically I've got 13, just this one is not currently wearable. You're gonna jump all of a sudden, aren't you? Okay, that wasn't as big a jump as I thought it was gonna be. So I have 3, maybe 4 to knit this year. So first up is, as always, the West Yorkshire Spinners Christmas yarn. And this is, I think, yeah, I thought it was called Gingerbread House, but it's just called Gingerbread. It's a little bit more traditional than the last few years. I really love it, of course. It reminds me of Mallard a little bit, one of their birds collection. So that will be going on the needles, and we'll probably have, do I have an example anywhere? It will probably have a nice red heel, cuff and toe with that. And then I've got kind of indie dyed as well. So this is, I got on a D-stash, this is 12 Trees by Norah George. Really, really lovely. Sort of a pale yet golden yellow base with flashes of dark Christmassy red and green in, so that's lovely. I need to figure out a contrast for that, or potentially just do a pattern on it. And then I also got Gynx yarn in a D-stash, and it comes with this little Gingerbread House Stitch Keeper, because this is Gingerbread House, so I was confusing the two. And this, as you can see, they're sort of similar, it's just they've gone for slightly different shades, and this is obviously a self-striping. I do have some Halloween yarn from Gynx Yarn that I do need to get around to knitting, but yeah, that is on my list. So those 3 will be cast on over the next few months and will be my kind of Christmas knitting. I do need to get some socks because I've got quite a small handbag, and my litmus is just never going to fit in that handbag, so I need a little sock project to take along. Then I've got this one, and it doesn't have a label on, and I can't remember for the life of me what the dyer is. I'll put it up on the screen, but I think it's called Cactus Flower. But I've always thought that it looked quite Christmassy because of this green, because of this red, the kind of chestnutty colour and the cream, even the pink. It gives me kind of decorate for Christmas vibes. So I'm tempted to get that knit up and in here. It might turn out to be like my Mr. Smith it might turn out a little bit like my Mr. Smith socks, where I knit it up and then decide, actually, this isn't quite what I was looking for, which is fine. I'll still have a pair of socks. It's not like anyone's losing out. So yeah, that's kind of where I am at with my Christmas box of socks. And I'm now gonna have to try and squish those back in and put it back so that I have my beautiful artful background. So that's it for Whipped Up. That is what I'm working on, what I will soon be working on. This is very much thought knitting as I kind of plan out what I'm going to do towards the end of the year, how I'm going to bolster my Christmas box of socks. That is still a whip, it's just not one that you can see. But that's it now for Whipped Up, so let's move on to Knit and Natter. In today's Knit and Natter, I wanted to talk a little bit about the pace of life, because I feel like ever since I've come back, I have talked about the fact that life is very, very busy, crazy fast, and just not allowing me a lot of time to do complex making. Hence why I'm working on the delicious Round and Round Litmus Cowl. Now, the issue that I have with kind of life being fast paced is how it then impacts good habits. It's not impacted her at all, it's impacted me. So I thought I would talk a little bit about that because it's kind of a bit about mental health, it's kind of a bit about self-care, but let's dive in, let's talk a little bit. So there are a few things that, because my energy and my mental energy is taken up so much by work at the moment, which I am working on some solutions at work to minimize that, because that is not a sustainable way to work. So I'm doing what I can to put systems in place to minimize the impact on kind of my mental energy when I'm at work. But there are a few things that I'm also trying to figure out in my personal life. And the first one, weirdly, is my wardrobe. I have been feeling pretty meh about my wardrobe for a long time. I'm not somebody who is particularly stylish. I don't really enjoy shopping. I actively dislike shopping. I don't really take a great deal of joy in any of that side of things. But I do want to be able to go to my wardrobe and find things to wear and it be easy, and not just look at it and go, oh God, what do I wear for this particular occasion? Which is particularly how I felt when I was packing for New York. So right now I'm trying to be really intentional about my wardrobe. I'm trying to take some time every few days to have a look online to see if there are things that I like. When they arrive, I'm very intentional about what I keep. If I don't like it, it goes back, because at the end of the day, I don't have the finances to justify buying things unless I really, really like them. So that is something that I am trying to do a bit more of. I don't enjoy the process, but I know that if I do this thing that I find less fun than other things, I will eventually benefit from it, and it will make my life a lot easier when I get up in the morning and I'm like, I'm going to this particular thing, what do I wear? Oh, I have options instead of So that will take a little while to build something that I want, because obviously I can't just go out and buy a whole new wardrobe, and also finding the things takes time as well. But it is something that I'm working on in the background, because I identified it as this thing that was just draining some of that brain energy, because it turns something that should be really simple in the morning or whenever it is you're going out and into something that isn't, something that becomes quite stressful. And I am very, very much about minimizing stress as much as possible, and that's why I'm working on that. It sounds frivolous, but, and you know, I'm owning my privilege in the fact that I have the ability to do this at this point in time, but it is going to be very good for my brain when I get it done. The other thing that I've really let slip over the past kind of month or so is my evening routine. And to give you kind of an idea of what it was previously, I would do a quick tidy of the flat. It doesn't get messy, but I would make sure that I put away my knitting, I washed up my teacup, and, you know, I just made sure everything was tidy so that when I got up in the morning, you know, it wasn't this mess that I had to confront and deal with first thing to kick off the day. And then I would go and do my skincare routine, which was just very soothing and very calming. And then I would bullet journal, either at my table or in bed. And then I would either go to sleep or read for a bit. Pretty simple evening routine, and I've let the whole thing slide. I've been so tired, I will know that I should go to bed because I'm tired, but it's just easier to lay on the sofa and let the next episode of Doctor Who run. By the time I do decide to get up and go to bed, I just don't have the energy, and it's too late to do the tidying, to do the skincare routine, and yada yada yada. And I've really let it slide. I am back on board with tidying everything before I go to bed. It takes 5 minutes, it's really not that big a deal. I am gradually getting back to my evening skincare routine, not every night. Some nights I just brush my teeth and go to bed. But when I do the evening skincare routine, hello buddy, I feel so much better. I feel very soothed, and also my skin looks nicer, which is, you know, what I do it for. The one thing that I'm really, really struggling to get back on board with is my bullet journal. And it's so stupid of me because it is the one thing that does my brain so much good. So the thing that I'm working on at work at the moment is, I've spent the last 18 months carrying everything that my department needs to do, is doing in my head, everything. And as we build out the team and as we take on more complex projects, I physically, mentally cannot do that anymore. So I'm looking at digital solutions that will take all of that off of my plate, so I can get things in, planned, figured out, assign deadlines, assign people to them, and that's kind of the end of it. I don't have to think about it. I can just check in every day, filter by who is doing what, when does it need to be done, and it makes my life a lot easier. And that I know works for me in my personal life if I sit down and I take 10 minutes every evening to fill out my bullet journal for the day. It's literally, I just do a quick check on how much I've spent, a quick check on my mood, and I tick off what I've done for the day and make a plan for the next day. I do a little bit of journaling if necessary. It literally is a 5 to 10 minute job, and I haven't done it properly in months, and it's so good for me. I think the most consistent I've ever been was I did it literally every day in June, literally every day. And I felt amazing, and it was a really, really good way to manage my anxiety. And I don't know why I keep going, I don't have the time to do it, I just want to go to bed. But actually, if I went to bed 10 minutes later with an emptier brain, I'd probably feel a lot happier. So that is something that I am working on pushing myself to do, because it's very, very good for me. And I think sometimes we forget how these little things really this little thing does cheer me up. But we forget how these little things really have such a huge impact on our life, and I'm trying to remind myself of that and get myself back on an even keel. But that is it for Knit and Natter, and that is it for the episode. I just wanted to share that because I think that, I've said this before, I've said this multiple times on the podcast, it's really easy for me to sit here and go, isn't everything perfect? And look, I'm knitting and I'm making all this stuff. And that's why I'm really honest about the fact that sometimes it's only one project, because the alternative is wear myself out and dislike what I'm making. So I just want to always be really honest about how things are, and I am pretty much fine. I'm just looking at ways to make myself a little bit less noisy in my head, you know, because I hate that feeling, I hate that feeling. So that is what I'm working on, and hopefully in a couple of weeks' time I will be able to tell you what a wonderful success it has been. But in the meantime, that is it for this week's episode. I hope you are keeping well. I hope your self-care routine is on an even keel, even if mine isn't. And I will see you very soon for another cup of tea. Take care. Bye.